Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pixelated Perfect podcast. I am super excited today. We have Wesley on the podcast. Hey, Wesley, how are you?
Hey guys, hi. Thank you for having me on, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm super excited to hear your story. So, just some interesting facts is that Wesley came from a gaming and production management background, game design. And so he's kind of transitioned. Right now, he runs his own design studio focusing on branding, identity, and web. So I'm excited to hear how you got from what you studied to kind of opening your own studio. So let's get into it. So kind of that question I started off with is when did design come into your life?
So, my journey was a weird one. I started really early. Remember making business cards when I was 14 on Serif Draw Plus, if any of you know Serif Draw Plus. It's kind of old school, but
I don't know
so
that one.
yeah, it's kind of super. You know the old Photoshop look, kind of the that XP kind of look.
Okay,
It, it,
yeah.
it looked like that, super rough, but it was actually really powerful. I bet I could do some things with it now, but you know, so I started playing around with that and I ended up studying graphic design and art and design in school at a young age. Um, and I moved from that into doing graphic design at kind of my A level, which is that point in the UK where before you go to university. That kind of got me interested in just some basic things. And then I got a great opportunity to go to study in Scotland. Now, I'm from a small town in the UK, okay, in Wales. So for me to get the opportunity to go and study at this institution, it's called Abertay University, and it's in Dundee in Scotland. And they are, I kind of hate to love to say this, but it's true. They're the best um, university in Europe for video game courses. So that to me was like, I gotta go, okay, I have to go. Um, so I went there and I did 4 years there. And I kind of knew early on that as much as I loved video games, I loved creating them more than I enjoyed playing them. And I liked projects at scale. So I knew that video games are super complex to make. Um, and there's so many layers to that. So as I went through the years and as I specialized in different things, I went from 3D to programming logic and things like this. I kind of realized that I was pulling away a little bit. I was kind of enjoying graphic design magazines and print T-shirts and things like that. And it was a real conflict for me because going from enjoying a project that will take 9 months to a few years to really admiring like a printed T-shirt, that was a weird transition for me. So I started taking some small graphic design projects, just really small. Worked with a few bands, like local bands, did artwork for them, album covers, stuff like that. And it kind of clicked in my third year. Like, this is what I want to do, you know?
Interesting. Okay, so I am curious, and maybe you could offer some advice for people that are in that stage, because we've had a couple of designers on the podcast who have kind of decided after getting to a certain point in school that what they thought they wanted isn't what they wanted, and they've
Yeah.
devoted so much energy. So how would you suggest to someone to make that decision, or choices, little things you did? I guess you kind of just mentioned you started doing a little bit of graphic design here and there for
Yeah.
bands, but do you have any other
The
advice?
first thing, the first thing is if you've spent your time in something worthwhile, then you haven't wasted your time. That's huge. Because, I mean, just use me as an example. I learned a lot about project management, about working with people, and especially creatives too, just pulling things in. So, if you're in an advertising background or a business background and you become interested in design, you've learned a lot of transferable skills, and especially in agencies, they love that. They love that. So you haven't wasted your time. In terms of like a transition, you'll be used to learning. So all you have to do is learn a few new things and you're stacking your skills. So if you can, pick up, say, coming from an advertising background, you do have a great understanding of kind of how to reach a customer. And these are lessons that you'll have to learn anyway coming into design and freelancing. So it's all about kind of understanding the skills you have, being kind to yourself in that transition, because at the end of the day, you want to do something that makes you happy. You don't want to be stuck in a job forever that you don't like. So I'd say to people, if you're looking to transition from something that you're in now, just be kind to yourself, write down all the skills you have, write down all the skills you'll learn, find, roles and responsibilities that you can take on with that skill set, and then find some people to help. That's a great one too, because that kind of bring out your passions, instead of just kind of being so, kind of stiff and rigid about, God, how do I do all this? Just play it cool, be calm. It's okay to transition,
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
People will pivot so many times through their career. It's okay.
Also good advice. I really love what you said. It's never wasted time. Like if you go into something and you have a passion for it and you explore it further, there's going to be things that you learn that you're going to take with you into whatever you do next. That was well said. Love it. Okay, let's keep going. So you reached this point where you kind of were like, I am taking some graphic design projects here and there, t-shirts, band, posters, not really enjoying as much this gaming program.
In my fourth year of university, right, I took on this really it was this really programming heavy project, right? That was the kicker for me. So I decided then, okay, I knew, let me finish my fourth year, let me get the piece of paper, and I'm gonna start designing on a larger scale. So after university was over, I kind of had a few clients that were looking to scale. And I took on an internship at a print workshop. So this was like this huge moment for me where I was like, okay, I have a degree in video games design. That's all good. And it's useful, but it's not what I want to do. So let me transition into this kind of like the design and core graphic industries by working in print. And that was good too, because it gave me like real hands-on experience. Instead of just, kind of watching YouTube videos and taking courses and spending all this time in theory, I was there with print machines, like working directly from Photoshop and Illustrator straight through onto t-shirts, and even did some boring stuff like road signs and stuff like this. Yeah, so like I had this kind of like, this weird introduction. So up until this point, I'd never really got to work on the projects that I wanted to work on. And what I love editorial design. I love, kind of sleek, really fashionable stuff. So I decided then, you come up with a bunch of mock projects and things like this, and I decided, okay. So I put together a good portfolio, and then I managed to land a couple of clients, like a couple of decent clients that I liked. And we maintain those relationships today, which is great. I'm really grateful for that.
That's amazing. So what kind of projects did you put in this portfolio, and like what did that process go? How was that process to actually get those first few customers for you?
The first thing was like you have to learn how to really handle a client process. That was the first thing that I found tricky, because I was used to handling people at scale where I can have meetings with people. But working with clients on a remote basis, also setting boundaries with people and making sure that scope was met and making sure that kind of deadlines were met between both parties. So that was the first kind of challenge. Once I'd got over those humps, it just became kind of seamless. I'm someone that likes to work with people that are enthusiastic. So if you can bring someone in and create a kind of a framework for them to work in, and a place for them to be enthusiastic, and then set some rules around that, then it really works. So that's kind of like how that process has been for me. Now, in terms of the portfolio I sorted out, I did a couple of projects. So one was like this really, I wanted to take a really boring company and make it look really fashionable.
Okay.
So I invented this paper company, which, like we all love paper as designers, like, but I didn't want to, so I chose a paper company, I called it Kern's Paper Supplies. Super like easy thing, nice like bold typography, nice color scheme, blue colors, and just kind of really editorial imagery. So I enjoyed that one, and then I picked another one, which is it was called Four Flowers. Now, here's something fun. Just I liked the name Four Flowers. I didn't even know what four meant, right? I didn't know what this word meant, and then I googled it, and it meant full of smell, like a nice scent. And I thought, how amazing is that?
Meant to be.
It blew my mind. I was like, okay. I kind of thought, yeah, that's great. So I did those two. So I did a boutique flower seller and a paper company, and both in line with the kind of values that I wanted to bring to my clients, and just kind of the work I want to do in the future.
Yeah, that's great. So, question for you. You kind of started this answer with learning how to work through client processes. And I think that skill is one of those skills that my original degree was in graphic design. I went to school for graphic design and they never said
Awesome.
anything about clients. Like they don't teach you how to work on processes with clients, right? And so you started off this answer with that, and then you also went into working on these portfolio pieces that were kind of like you created them to mold some of those values you have. So for someone that's starting a portfolio with maybe some of their own work, and they might not have client work, how would you suggest they kind of mesh that idea of processes and dealing with actual customers with like a project they made up?
Well, I think if you're working on a project that's your own, then you are the client, right? So you can go as far as, you don't have to take things, to the highest point of seriousness. But if you want to really get some good experience, set yourself deadlines. Take a project management tool like Asana. I use Asana and Notion together, by the way. So take something like Asana, set yourself some deadlines, set yourself an agreement of scope. Um, do kind of a really good research phase on the customer that you would want to reach, and then
Yeah.
also kind of like the kind of like the pain points you can solve for them, i.e. yourself, i.e. this company, really kind of flesh it out, and that way then you can, I don't want to make up a company now, but let's say they need a website and they need branding, graphics, and everything else. Set that scope, set the deliverables in kind of key stages, things like that, and really flesh out a full project scope. That'll give you an idea of managing a project for yourself. And then if you can manage a project for yourself, because it's so much harder to manage yourself sometimes than it is others, and you'll just get used to just looking at things like deadlines in Asana and ticks and checkboxes and stuff like that. And then especially if I can't stress enough, something that a client will love is you being able to talk about a project that you love. Like this is huge for them. So if you can show your enthusiasm by showing off a project that really promotes your core values, which then is that's where it is. Like that's where the gold is, because that's the type of person you want to work with. So if you can do 2 or 3 projects that show off what you can do best, and the place that you're coming from, you will attract that kind of person. Yeah.
I love it. Yep. I completely agree. I think that you definitely hit a lot of those points that a lot of designers that come out of school are like, what do? I just have school work that I've done. But I think like holding yourself accountable, using a project management tool to really get those skill sets. And I really love what you said about when you're your own customer, like you're like the hardest customer. Doing work for yourself is like the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
So if you can do it for yourself and follow deadlines, like you got this.
Yeah, definitely, right. Definitely.
Okay, let's keep going. So you got some of your first customers that you still keep in touch with today, which is amazing.
After I kind of reached a point where I was like, okay, there's something in this, right? Like there's definitely a future in this. I had good feedback as well from my clients, which is huge. Also, by the way, everyone, make sure your clients give you feedback in terms of like testimonials and things like this. It's huge. Even if it's just for yourself, if you don't want to put it out there, request that from them and bug them if they don't give it to you. Just
Yes.
the point.
I love that. And do it when they get that, when you deliver that project, because that's when it's going to be fresh to them.
Say it's a requirement in big bold text in that email. Just do it. It's okay. They'll want to do it. It'll benefit you in the future. So I kind of started getting some good feedback in, and then I started looking into how it's all good and well being on your own as a freelancer and taking on your project, but if you really want to scale and if you really want to kind of build a business around this, then you have to kind of look into things like having a good business plan, having like a structure to a business. So I started going down this route. I started looking into how to structure a company, how to subcontract, which is a big one, and just kind of things of that nature. So, and then I started looking into social media, and I've got some great influences in there. There's a few studios online that I love. Leche Studio, and I don't know if you know, there's a woman called Babiana Liu in Brooklyn. She's I guarantee many of the community members will know her, because yeah, she's great, and she taught me a lot. I had a few kind of FaceTime calls with her, and she spoke a lot about kind of how to market yourself and how to grow on social media and things like this. So at that point, I had a good understanding of how to make content, how to structure a company, and how to deliver projects. So those three things combined allowed me to say, okay, let's launch an agency, or let's turn at least me as a freelancer into me the agency, right? And
Yeah. I love that. A question I have for you is like, of those three things you suggested, which one did you struggle with the most?
Do you know what? I think, I'll be honest, I think it was the content creation. I think I struggled the most with just actually being authentic on camera. You know, just kind of opening myself up and just saying, okay, this is me and these are my passions. Because it's all good and well. Being a designer, you have an opportunity to polish, right? You know, you really have an opportunity to polish everything you put out. Whereas with content, years ago, people used to love really polished content, but now people want raw, you know, they want raw, unfiltered. They just want you and what you do and your passions. The best thing, a little tip for everyone, you can just film yourself. Just film yourself all the time. That's what I started doing. I just started filming myself talking. Like, you know, just I asked friends to have FaceTime calls with me and I recorded them. And just over time, I got more used to speaking on camera. That was a big challenge for me. Yeah.
That's great advice too. I think a lot of people really struggle starting that. I definitely don't like to be in front of the camera either. I mean, now I'm running this podcast and I'm recording myself all the time, and I feel like I've definitely gotten more comfortable. So I think that's great feedback. Just like do it. Just record it, and then it'll feel more natural to you, and it kind of just becomes something you do.
Also, like, it's you know, like, you know, we forget that people want to see it. People want to see you. People want to see, you know, kind of you and your authentic self. You know, it's okay to worry about this stuff, but it's not okay not to do it. That's how I feel.
Yeah,
you know,
that's great
but
advice.
There's a place for everyone, you know. Yeah, especially online. Like,
yes. And I would love, and maybe you can send these over after, and we can send it to everyone. Is like some of these social media influencers that you follow that really helped you get started. I think that would be really, really interesting. And how did you reach out? So the one that you were mentioning in Brooklyn, and you had some FaceTime calls, how did that go? Did you just reach out and ask for some advice?
This is a huge point. Okay, so I learned this the other day, that I didn't actually know that people had trouble reaching people that they kind of follow from like an outside, you know, like when they just watch their videos and they never actually talk. So I was speaking to someone that I'm trying to subcontract with, and do you know Jamie Brindle? That's another guy, just to throw his name out there. Okay, so it's cool. You have to follow Jamie Brindle, okay? Everyone follow Jamie Brindle. He's the father of freelancing. He's brilliant. So I just reach out to people. I send them a nice message. I say, I love their work, you know, and I say, I'd love to, if you have time to answer a few questions, or just, you know, even just to say hi and kind of, you know, put my name in their chat box, you know, like, so if you follow someone that you like, that you trust, that you value their opinion, just reach out to them. Be nice, be approachable, have a problem they can solve, so that, you know, there's not just like a huge layer of text. You know, give them a short, kind of concise question, respect their time, and they will 90% of the time get back to you. And then that opens up a dialogue with someone that, you know, you really admire, instead of just kind of watching from afar and just, there's more value for you. You can ask a personal question to someone. And so that was what I did. I kind of spent a couple of days choosing a few people that I really trusted, and I just reached out to them. And I honestly, like, I got great responses from people. And this was when I had, you know, very little content on my accounts. I had enough to show that, you know, I was at least within the creative industries and interested in this stuff. But it wasn't like I had, you know, 1,000 posts on Instagram with like all these reels and everything. It's just, you know, like, it's just being nice. most of the time people are very bossy on social media. If you just come across as being nice and just like enthusiastic with a question, I'd love it if people just kind of sent me more messages and were like, hey, I've got this design problem, etc., etc. I'm absolutely happy to help.
So all listeners out there, get ready, follow Wesley, and then you can reach out to him and ask all the questions you want. And I think that's really I think that's really interesting, because also reaching out, not just in like a social media context of like, hey, I'm interested in designers or influencers, also just in general, getting customers, finding jobs. Like if you go outside of those traditional routes and you make yourself known and you reach out with compassion and passion, that people most likely will respond to you. So I think like getting yourself out there, showing your personality and saying that in a message or however makes sense. Like, I think that's some really great advice. And I think like so many people, and I also think this, and I don't know if this applies as much to social media and kind of reaching out to influencers, but when reaching out to potential customers you like or jobs, follow up, because people are going to read a message and then they're going to forget. And it's not that they don't care. It's just there's 10,000 things that are taking our attention. Follow up always.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another point too. If you're looking for kind of that first batch of clients, one of the best things you can do is visit places, studios, restaurants, whatever your target customer is. Visit your favorite places and just offer to do something for them. If you're kind of in advertising, you can do kind of an audit of how their brand's doing online, and just take that in. You're going to do this research anyway, and you'd love to land them because you love the restaurant. So just do it. Just do the work. It'll take you 2 hours one day to just put together 1-page report on how they're doing. The same thing goes with near any business. Just go in, meet the manager. You don't need, right? This is a huge thing. You don't necessarily need a huge pack with pens with your name on it and business cards and all this stuff. You don't need it. You can just go in and just meet the manager, because that's where your passions will bleed through. You don't have to be, like a huge conversationist. If you just go in and say, hey, I love this place and I'd love to work with you. I'd love to meet whoever's in charge of your social media and just give them some pointers, and just offer that value free. And then once you're in, and once you've been able to kind of make that connection, then you offer your services. And if they don't want to take on your services, you've already offered them some value and you've contributed to somewhere you go. And what's better than that, really? That's a nice thing to do.
Definitely. I love that. Yeah, and I feel like that says a lot about like you as a person too. You're like, hey, if nothing happens out of it, I wanted to give you something because I really like what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. I think communication and reaching out to people is a craft in itself, and it's hard. Okay, so let's keep going. You did these 3 steps and you've launched your agency. What happens now?
So this is where the business is young, and it's really exciting to me. So right now we've kind of and I will always say we and us, because I believe it's a community effort, and there's a network of people. I'm a sole founder, but there's a network of people that back me, that help me, that help me kind of answer questions and things like that. So I'll always say we and us. But right now we're building our internals. We're kind of building our system out. We're managing some current kind of older projects and some other clients, and we're scaling them up with us. So we're trying to bring everyone along the ride. And I'm currently building like a network of subcontractors. So that kind of layer of foundations is where we're at right now. It's really exciting. Like, I love being in this stage, because it's like that research stage when you're pulling together things, you're pulling mood boards and ideas and everything together. But we have a solid plan for the next couple of years, just to kind of grow online and grow our client base. Also want to do a lot of work with charity, which is something I'm really interested in. So there's a few communities in my local area that I would like to contribute to. But this is something, I don't know if I should say this, but I will. I want to work with dogs. I want to help dogs.
I love that.
So I've been speaking with a couple of people about how we can contribute to some dog charities and some things like that. So right now we're just building this kind of this strong foundation to work from. And I also do, kind of like a lot of personal work on my own. So that kind of takes up half my time too. And over the next year, I'm hoping and planning definitely to become completely full time in the studio, where I can actually just wake up and just work on this. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're setting yourself up for this vision. It sounds like you have a plan like this. You are going to accomplish this.
Thank you.
That's yeah, like it's like your passion and your desire. So what does it mean to kind of like build your system up to you? What are these things that you're doing right now?
I think you have to have some strong foundations, right? Now, in the past I've made the mistake of trying to just kind of go gung ho and just hope things will work out. And this is a good mistake to make, by the way, because you learn a lot. You learn about the things you need to back you. I've used like 10 different productivity softwares, and the combination I've landed on is Asana and Notion. And I use Asana to track every individual project and its timeline, and then I use Notion to track everything else, the people, kind of any applicants, any products I'm working on, things like that. So Notion is great for all that. If you have a good back end, then you can rely on that. And sometimes it can be overwhelming to have kind of a Notion page with 50 different entries, and like I found it overwhelming. I have, but like little things like mixing up your emojis and stuff like that and your icons. These things help, trust me.
Yeah, I mean Notion. We use Notion internally too, and icons and emojis are like the only way that we go. And I spend so much time picking my perfect emoji for my page. It's like ridiculous. It shouldn't happen, but it is.
It's a necessity. I think it's necessary.
It's really important. It's really important. So yeah, I get that. And I think like the further along you get and the more you work on processes, is you will come to consolidate some of those pages and put them in other places and make it easier.
If we look at an example, say, on the theme of reaching out, and then if we look at that process of reaching out and then bringing the client in and launching a project, if you want to do that at scale or even at a smaller or a large scale, one of the best things you can do is treat it as a business and bring them in as a lead, track all the information that you get from them. What's their scope of budget? What kind of project are they interested in? Have that all written out, not on paper. I'm a big paper guy. I love to write. So, but having it all in a system, in a computer system that will keep all this information there and concise, that gives you a good start. Then you can move from there to you can have recordings of conversations tracked in one place. You can have, kind of like any research all mood boarded out in a specific place. And before you know it, when, say you go through this whole process and you actually deliver a project, before you know it, you have a complete track record of this entire project. And you can have that for every client you ever work with, instead of having sticky notes on the walls and paper everywhere, And I learned that the hard way, but it's definitely the best way, definitely, by far. Have everything tracked in a system that you can work with. And something that, if you're a visual person, have a visual system. It's okay, you don't have to just work in spreadsheets if it doesn't work for you.
That's really funny. I was about to ask you that question. As a visual person, us as designers, sometimes project management tools are just gross.
Yeah.
And they're not visual, and it is spreadsheets. So I was going to ask you, how do you kind of balance that?
I don't know if I balance it too well. Emojis. I think the main thing is I understand that if you're going to track something like money, you have to work with numbers. So there's a time and a place for everything. But if you can get used to working in a system like that, it will help you. And if not, then there are other systems that will definitely work for you in another way. You can do things like, for example, you have different views in productivity software. Use the big views where you have a big image and like a board view instead of just a list. Simple things like that can go a long way when you have a reference image to the project you're working on. And that means you can scan a page much easier instead of just scanning text in a list. These little things make a big difference. Even if you're working in spreadsheets, use color. Simple. Just break it up with color.
I love that.
And then you can even, right, in your backend system, track all the colors you use for your spreadsheets. These little things,
Exactly. No, that's
Yeah.
great. I think this is really great advice, and I strongly suggest if you're starting out, like definitely track. I think that's like yes, I definitely when I started out at freelance, I was like whatever, I'll know everything, and it all turns out a jumble. And don't make that mistake, or everyone's gonna make it and then figure out how great tracking is. So
Yeah.
I love that. That's great advice. I think the last thing I wanted to say on that point, and I would like your feedback too, is also, and you kind of mentioned this, reach out for help. Like if you're not great at project management or accounting, there are so many people you can reach out to that can help you at least set it up so that you have a starting point and a foundation for your foundations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one, you're not born with these skills, you know. It takes time to learn. And as we said earlier about changing industries and kind of looking at different paths, you you're not born as a designer that can manage projects. You're born a creative. So, spend the time learning, kind of project management as you did design, and it will work out. Both work in tandem and they both complement each other. So if you can put that time in to learn how to manage a project and reach out to people that are willing to help you learn, then it's only going to benefit you. Especially if they're already set in their systems, they've got a system that works for them. Find out why it works for them, and then take those lessons into your own space.
Yes, that's great advice. I love it. So I have a question about this network of subcontractors that you're building. What are you planning on doing? Is it like as you scale, you want to have these subcontractors you can reach out to? Are you just creating a network for them to reach out to each other?
So I've kind of got a baseline idea of how I want to do this. It's all written and I've had it kind of looked at, so it's not totally raw. So I love working with small businesses, but in our industry, you do have to work on larger scale projects. So for me, what I want to do is have two levels of subcontractor. And this isn't a level of, I would say, necessarily quality. I think it's finish, right? So I love working with young people that are up and coming. And one of the main problems that they face is not having access to clients and not having work, as we discussed with portfolios. So as I said, I want to work with small businesses alongside big businesses. So my plan is to connect smaller businesses who need lower scale design and kind of projects like that with people who are just graduating, with people who are just kind of figuring out how to set everything up. So that way that the business can kind of afford to pay a lower fee for people who are just starting out. And then I also want to have access to a network of kind of more experienced freelancers who have delivered projects before, and create this kind of this system where we can work with any kind of client and really benefit them. So that way we have kind of designers and developers who are like a few years in the game and they've got a big portfolio of specific projects. Maybe some I've got a couple that are into really like fashionable stuff and kind of high fashion editorial work. So they'd be great for if we got like a magazine company where I could say, okay, I'd love to have a hand in this too, and pitch to the company, I would love to bring in this person and this person, and then say, and that becomes an internal part of the pitch, is that give me 2 weeks to get back to you with a full proposal and the team that I would like to bring in from the network, and then actually pitch that as kind of the full project, that you not only get the benefit of my studio, you also get the benefit of the agencies of these people.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that I feel like I feel like I get a very good sense of your values and like your mission here, and I do think like helping people and creating community is very much in line with what you're looking for. So I think that's really great to like start pulling all of these people together and be able to create this network. And I think for all the listeners out there is like, I think if they feel like they're starting off and want to be a part of your networking, they should reach out to you.
Absolutely. If there are any creatives, developers, designers, artists, anything, if you have an interest and you want to gain some more experience, I will find work for you. And at least I will provide you a structure that you can learn how to structure projects and involve you in client discovery processes and discussions so that you can gain that experience. Because at the end of the day, we are one big community. The design community has grown so much in the last few years, we're all kind of making friends online, and it's moved from kind of a really individual space to now a community space. Especially with innovations like Web3, we're only just getting to this point now where a massive global community of designers, and we don't have to be so kind of locked down and just individual. So if anyone wants to grow, get in touch. My Instagram handle, I'm sure, will be there, and my email, I'll give it to you. But yeah, so it's all good. I'd love to speak to more people. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Yes, let's spread the design community, spread the word. Let's all connect. That's great. Okay, so this was awesome, and I have one more question for you. Is where do you see yourself going from here? What does the future look like?
Well, here's one thing. So I'm planning to move. Okay, so I'm planning to move to Italy, and I'd like to take my work on the road. So one of the great things about running a remote agency is that you can do that. So I'd like to work with people from across the world on small and large scale projects, and kind of, make a difference with the values that I hold in terms of community and looking after people and their businesses. So over the next few years, I'd like to scale everything up. I'd like to work with companies, on each continent. This is something, a goal of mine, and kind of just create a community of people that can share values and that can, grow together. That's my aim over the next few years.
I love it. Yeah, and I think where we are as designers and how the world is, you definitely can take it on the road and travel as well as design.
I'd like to meet these people. I don't want to just see them on the screen. I want to go and spend time with people. I want to build genuine connections instead of I don't want this to be cold. I want to create a really warm community of people that love working together. I have some people that I'm speaking with in Germany, and I would love to go and meet them and work on some community projects in their communities and just kind of bring the whole thing together like that. And I have some of these visits planned too, so I'm really excited for 2023.
Well, I was going to ask, why Italy?
It's beautiful.
Yes, for sure. I was like, is there a customer or a client you have there that you want to see?
I think I have some kind of connection to the history of art it has. And there's just I like the pace out there. I like the pace. It's slower, and the weather's also great. I don't know if you've ever been to the UK, but the weather is not great here. It's really bad, especially this time of year.
Yes, all the rain and cold. One of our designers is in London, and we always kind of joke with him, like, how's that weather over there?
Terrible. Yeah. But,
yes, for sure. No, that's so exciting. Well, I will definitely end this podcast under all of this. We'll put all of your information so people can reach out. And I'm really excited to continue this relationship with you and follow along on your journey as you scale and grow this community of designers. So thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Thank you too. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope we can do this again sometime. Yeah.
Definitely. We'll have to follow up in a year when you're traveling through Italy.
Everyone, make sure you follow up.
Yes, also. Always follow up. I love it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Wesley. We'll definitely be in touch, and I'm excited to continue to follow you.
Okay, thank you. See you.
Thanks.